Okay, so continuing Yachazada. So the emes is the first question that he asked is not answered. Namely, Havaya you praising Hashem. What's Hashem praising you? So he did start the answer by saying that this is the Shema, and Hashem's response is Mikamcha Kisol Goy Echad Ba'aretz. So it's the segue into the whole avodah of the Yid, which is to reveal the Achdos Hashem in the world in the absolute way that precludes even Shittuv. That's the segue. So that's kind of Hashem says, "Umikamcha kisor goy echad ba'aretz." Chassidus explains, it's not simply. I'm just venturing the answer here. It's not simply Hashem praising Yidden as one nation on earth, but goy echad ba'aretz, your mamshir, the echad, the true meaning of echad, the yichud in the world. That's Hashem's praise of us, is our avodah that we do in carrying out His kavanah. That is the answer to Hashem's praise and what is meant by it. So to understand all of this was to explain the three pirushim in echad. One, that there's nothing like Him, which he asked, does it have to be stated? Even the nations of the world say there's none like Him. He's a lakad lakaya. Doesn't answer that, but maybe therefore there's the second pirush. There's no answer to that question either. But there's the second pirush that it negates avodah zarah, and the third pirush that it negates even shituf. So the Bira Inyan began in Ois Gimel, and the Nekuda is that his creation is Yeshmai, not Ilav Olam. In simple language, God is not a creator, He's the creator. A creator means that's what He does. Creation is a result of the expression of His divine talent as this divine, super intelligent being, as the nations of the world understand the creator. Because he's apprehended from creation itself with the given that creation is the natural expression of the creator. That's the given. The given is it's natural. Natural means that it's cause and effect. The whole principle of nature, of science, is all cause and effect. And the quest is to understand the cause and the cause of the cause, the cause of the cause. But it's all cause and effect, where the effect is the natural result of the cause. So the given is that it's all a natural and even inevitable process, notwithstanding the random components, but it's inevitable. It's inevitable. That's the whole premise, is that existence is inevitable. The way it is, random again. It's a lot of numbers and the chances, but still, it's inevitable. It's cause and effect. So therefore, the result is a faith in God, who is pegged as a creator. The reality is that many Yidden, in their parlance, their common language, I'm talking from a Yidden, the Beira Olam, the Rabbi Shalom, the master of the world, that's common outside Lubavitch.
The Heilige Bashefer.
The Heilige Bashefer, the Holy Creator. It's all true. He is there. It's all true. But in Lubavitch, other places too, it's the Eibishter, which means above. Period. There's no definition. The Heilige Bashefer, the Holy Creator. That's the common language in much of the Hasidic world. So that is true. But Chassidus says that, however, is a radical decision of the Eibishter to become a creator. He's not a creator. He's not saying his chas v'shalom is not true. And Heilige Bashefer, really hints to that. Behemes is Kodesh, he became a Bashefer. All to say, therefore, that since creation is ilo va'olol, yesh ma'ayin, and there was a strong diyukim here. It's good to remember this in our davening. About it in Tilim, in Hallel, Hayoshvi b'shamayim, Hayoshvi, he dwells in the heavens. The extra yud at the end should have said Hayoshvi b'shamayim, but the extra yud, the additional yud after the word Yoshev, is to indicate that the b'shamayim, the heaven, is also katnus. It's a small thing. This is not the result of his handiwork, and it gets less and less as you go down. But it's the higher forms of life, greater expressions. It's all the hashpala, it's all the descent. And that's the shot in the pasuk. He descends to see what is happening, as it were, in Shemayim and Oretz equally. Why? Because Magbi Lashavis. Because he's exalted from sitting down. Sitting down is not, it's a descent for him. So that led to Ashgacha Pratis. It's the fourth line there on page Chav Gimel. So it's not so clear. It doesn't spell it out why one leads to the other. Since creation is Yesh Ma'ayin, but it is clear. Because if it's Yesh Ma'ayin, which means that it fundamentally has no reality and needs the constant miracle of its existence, the constant investment, then obviously it's Ashgacha Pratis. If would be Ilo va'olol, so it comes from the Creator. This is the paradox. That's true. I'm talking aloud. Ilo va'olol means he's the divine artist. So this is the natural expression of the Creator, is to create this complex, beautiful world. Then creation would have a sense of independence. Paradox is he's hardwired this way, that which he produces is independent. It's tafkil, it's yesh ma'ayin, that's when it's not independent.
Yesh ma'ayin doesn't imply yesh ma'ayin before Rebbe, so that everything is constantly being created as he wants it.
That's what we're trying to explain. Yes, yesh ma'ayin is every rega. But the paradox is that it's not him and requires him. But if we would say that creation is ilo va'olol, it is him and doesn't require him. That's what I'm trying to zero in on the paradox here. If it's ilo va'olol, which means he naturally produces this, then it would not require his constant investment. It's only when he doesn't, and this is a complete chiddush, that he needs to constantly sustain, because creation is fundamentally, has no place. That requires the constant attention. That requires constant attention. And the simple understanding is, if you're going to do something that is contrary to your nature, fundamentally contrary to your nature, then you have to constantly do it. It's not going to be. If it's your natural state, you've expressed it, and you don't have to pay attention to it anymore. Its existence, it's justified. Its existence is justified. It comes from you. It's justified, so it's justification. And you can see it's traceable. But if it's not justified, there are these constant chiddush, the constant miracle of its renewal. I'm sure there's much greater depth that we could add to this umizeh muchach from Yesh Ma'ayin is muchach shachar pratis. I'm just sharing something to people to think about. Ilo va'olol doesn't. And that's why the nations of the world can talk about shituf and the forces of nature and having some degree of independence, like the book, I think I quoted the book by Dr. Harold Kushner. I told you about the book. It's a bestseller when bad things happen to good people. Either he lost a child, God forbid, or a child was born with severe, very ill. So he wrote this book. It was a bestseller, and rabbis were giving it out left and right to people that had tragedy. And he basically argues that it's not a punishment, which is beautiful, and don't blame God either, because God creates nature, and he decided he's not mixing in. And nature, so there's mutations, and there's earthquakes, and there's faulty genes, and things happen. It's not by divine design in the sense of it's mamish ila v'olo. You create the forces of nature, and this is what happens. Mamish this. Shituf. He's a deeply believing person. But God as the great artist. And the great artist, so there's going to be flaws, imperfections in the down the road and in creation, because it's finite, so it has its flaws. The truth is, as I speak about this subject, I don't say this is comforting. So it's just a whim. It's just bad luck, bad mutation. There's no meaning to this illness. There's no meaning. He stripped it of all meaning. And don't blame God. He's defending God. It's not his fault. He's benevolent, and he goes into safe course. He suffers with that's all beautiful, but the laws of nature, the kachavim mazolis are the kachavim mazolis, and that's the way they work. And there will be these collisions of the natural forces, but it's that therein lies comfort. At the end of the day, not. The end of the day the only comfort is that it's got to be you, as painful, as inexplicable as it is, and that it's sacred and meaningful, the life and the death. It's a more difficult path, but it's the emes and ultimately much more satisfying, because it's the truth. And because the biggest pain is where were you? The loneliness. So you couldn't mix in and fix this. So the laws of nature. So you've done miracles. Why wouldn't you want for me? Doesn't answer that. But if it's yesh ma'ayin, that's the bishas kavana, and I know you don't understand that, my child, and I'm suffering with you, but I am here, and it is that. So there's a deep comfort there, even though the pain is still there. With the faith that it will be not just understood, but retroactively appreciated and felt that I was never abandoned and that it's all you. So at any rate, so from this, from what? That Briyas Yesh Ma'ayin Smezeh Muchach Hashgacha Pratis. And then, namely, not only Mina Medaber, so because Mina Medaber, everybody agrees as Hashgacha Pratis, the higher elements. It's down the chain, the lowest chain of the Ilav Olo, that Hashgacha Pratis. Why would he be, that they're insignificant? But the big, higher creations, he continues taking interest in. He created the world, so the artist isn't walking away from his piece of art. It's the minutiae that's irrelevant. The minutiae of the stroke of the pen, the little bit of ink, whatever, that's not relevant. But the general picture is. So the Minim Medaber all agreed. And you remember that the Rambam is a big chiddush of Chassidus. Just to repeat it again. The Rambam says that Hashgacha Prat, there's many levels. Hashgacha Pratis is only on Minim Medaber, only on the human being. And within the human being, there's levels that only tzaddikim and the Rishoyim, he says, are abandoned to the whims of nature. Mufka, that sounds exactly like Ilav Olu, not Yesh Ma'ayin. And that was one of the big protests against the Baal Shem Tov. What are you talking about? He taught Hashgacha Pratis in every leaf, Hepech, the Rambam, and the way it was understood till now. So the Mitler Rebbe answers, and the Rebbe answers, the basic answer is that the Rambam is speaking about where it's revealed. Where do you see the hand of God? The higher creations. And the tzaddik you see even more. A holy place even more. Why is the place holy? Because Hashem is revealed there. But Moloi Cholatz Kavoida. So the Baal Shem Tov is speaking be'etzem. And the Rambam is speaking into the observable role of Hashem. Obviously, the higher forms of creation, you see him more. It's more transparent. That's the simple answer. Deceptively simple. But until the Baal Shem Tov came along, it was understood kipshutoi as the wicked and the ants and all the creatures in the world. That's all random. There's no divine providence there. It's part of a bigger picture, but it could be one way or another. Will make no difference to it. Make no difference. That it does. It's part of the whole kavanah. But what's here? It's revealed here. It's not so obvious. Then he brought was a beautiful arichas over here in the ha'aretz that the Baal Shem, everything that the shit of the Baal Shem Tov is taught, actually revealed by the Frierdiker Rebbe. I don't know if it was articulated so strongly as by the Frierdiker Rebbe in the leaf blowing down the street, in which way it turns, and a little worm gets shaded. So everything has to have a source in Nigla. The source in Nigla is the Gemara in Chulin. Rabbi Yochanan saw a stork or what was it, a heron, or another word. What are they called? There's another bird that's similar. Yeah, in Miami they hang around there. We were there once in the winter. I mean, in the winter it was a cold day. Beaches were empty, so we went for a walk. It was cold. It was selling out on radiators. It was a cold spell like for 2 weeks, and that's the point when we went. We were given an apartment. It was the best trip ever. We had the whole beach to ourselves, but it was a spectacle of these birds diving into the water, catching fish. Pelicans. Maybe pelicans even. Yeah, pelicans. At any rate, we saw stuff that, because I don't know, it was cold, nobody was there. It was amazing. So when Rabbi Yochanan saw this, he said, he quoted the pasuk, Mishpatecha tohim Rabbi, your judgment extends to the great deep. And Rashi spells it out, that you arranged this pelican to judge and carry out your revenge with those fish that were destined to, that you arranged to die, whatever that means. But the point is that individual fish. Now, with the whole arichas here was, but there's another source. Why Daltet Bani brings this, and the Tzemach Tzedek says, brings in the Shemis Antilim, that this is the Tshuva Nitzchis. This was the final answer to this Hashgacha Pratis, even on creatures. That's where to say that. But there's another source. It's a Medrash that says that the Tana, the Amira saw, must be a Tana. The Tana saw that somebody was snaring birds, and he said that if heaven wouldn't decide, this one's free, this one's caught, you would not be able to catch them. So Hashgacha Pratis. So he brings in the others there that it's not an ultimate raya because the lashon there could be not the Eibishter himself, but the malachim. If a voice would, whose voice? A voice wouldn't declare whose voice, not clear. But here Rabbi Yochanan says Mishpatecha, you're referring to the Eibishter. It's clear that comes to the Eibishter himself. Then he asked the Kasha and the Teretz. We're in the middle of it, by the number 36. What about this statement? There's a statement that says, the pasuk says in Tehillim, in Chabakuk, you made men like the fish of the sea. Says the Medrash, I'm sorry, the Gemara, and the Zada, just like the fish of the sea, the larger swallows, the smaller. So too, if people wouldn't fear government, a person would swallow his fellow alive, like it says in Pirkei Avos. So the fish in the sea, the mashal here is just the random a fish, one swallowing another. So from this statement implies there's not hashgacha pratis. So he says that's not the case. On the contrary, the fact that we're using that as a mashal for men, all agree that there's hashgacha pratis amina medaber. And the fact that we're using an analogy from the fish, on the contrary, is indicative that the fish too, one swallowing the other, is also hashgacha pratis. So what about the fact that it's saying if not for the fear of heaven? That's because if not for the fear of government, hashgacha pratis. Why do you have to pray for the welfare of government? God, if you don't deserve it, it's not going to happen. If you're not going to be swallowed by your fellow, if you're not meant to be swallowed by your fellow, if fish won't be swallowed by other fish, if it's not meant to be. So why must you pray for the welfare of government, if not for government? So he answered here. Remember the answer? What was the answer to the question? Top of page Chav Dalet. Anybody? We answered it similar to the halacha that a person shouldn't stand under or walk on a weak ladder. So the question is, and Bechlal, put himself in any dangerous situation. Why not? It's meant to be. It's not going to happen. The answer is that to be in a dangerous situation and it's meant to be, you need a special schus. That you need a special schus. So what's the pshat? We still don't understand. Why do you need a schus if if his time isn't up and Hashem hasn't determined that the years are up? Why? We spoke about it a bit, but think this through. If it's Hashem's judgment on Shachar Pratis, why do you need a schus in a dangerous place? And why is that Allah as a person should not put himself in danger? So the MS is that if a person had that schus, Hashem to said such a word. I mean, it's a hard word, but it's the MS. If a person had absolute emunah, he could, I think he said he could walk on the water or something. I forgot, something like that. So if we were completely transparent, then Taka, the Likus could flow through us in a transparent way. That's what he says, but we're not. You need a special schus. So you, the person, putting himself in this dangerous place. So if he was Taka bottle but tachlis, Taka wouldn't be. But since he's not, so we still haven't answered the question. Since he's not, therefore he could die then, he could fall off the ladder and die. Because why? Because since he doesn't have this chus, he's not bottle. Not clear. Time up or not time up? I don't have an answer. Objective question. God judges the world and the person's years are allotted, and no matter what I do, it shouldn't change it. Okay, we'll leave that to revisit. But that's the halach. Ein seimchan ala nes. You can't rely on a miracle. Why shouldn't you? Why not? Huh? Not meant to be, not meant to be. Have a little bit of answer, I need to think it through. All right, let's go further. Let's finish the ois. So concluding, this was all like a Maamar Musgar in brackets. Conclusion is that Yidden, Ashkocha Pratis Yidden, Mechuyev Echad for Yid means not only is there one God, not only is he the great master, not only is he the creator, but there's nothing other than him. All is Yesh Ma'ayin, even Shittuf is precluded, even a partnership. Now to understand the partnership even further, that which we are precluding, so he brings out, this was also, we need to understand, where do we find that you have a partnership in Torah with God? That's in creation of a person. It says that there are three partners in the creation of a person, the Eibishter and the father and mother. So before we go any further, but wait a second, we just said we don't believe in shit. So then what's the answer to that? This we explained. The Maamar kind of explains it. Not, well, makes reference. We just finished precluding Shittuf and the Befedish Gemara, an explicit Gemara, famous Gemara in Nida, yeah, and in Kedushin. Shleish Shut from Yesh Ba'ad Makadosh Baruch Chavav Ve'imah. No, what's the pshat?
It's granted by Hashem gives us this potential to be a Shut. So essentially, it's nothing other than this.
So why can't you say the same thing about the Kechav Mazolis, we don't call the axe a shutuf. The axe of the woodchopper. We're saying we're saying that there is no shituf because just because we get in a second. We're saying there's no shituf because there's nothing outside. All's being created yesh ma'ayin. So it's a language you shouldn't use. We could use it with amongst people. People make partnership in their own world. But if we're talking about the creation of a human being, to use then we're partners with God. The answer there is because of the bechira. That's what you meant. Because Hashem granted us free choice. Now that we said we can't explain. That we hit a wall, not neatly anyway. But there's bechira. So in many moral issue, there's bechira. So there's bechira in this sense too. This applies to Yidden and non-Jews. They have 7 mitzvahs, part of which is to propagate the world. There's bechira there. Otherwise, there's no mitzvah. There's no choice, and there's no mitzvah. So that's why there we're calling it a shutuf. But that's an aside. But he wants to bring out, right? That's what you're saying, yeah. But he wants to bring out is what the whole point of this ois is, of this paragraph is, that even a shutuf that's negligible, a very negligible role, even that we have to negate. And then he goes on to explain at length, because what's the role of parents? The Eibusher gives the neshama. So the parents give the body, and in detail he gave the bones from the father and the flesh from the mother. So what's the main part of the person? Of course, is his soul. Then he had even more. Even more. The fact that that which they give then evolves and becomes into the child. They have no choice over that. So that they're involved in creating the formation of the child in the womb. It's all done milamayla. They don't understand how it works. Don't know. May not even want it. It's going to happen. Not in their control. So the role of the parents is negligible shituf, and that's what we're negating. Now they do have because of bechira, but we're now talking about creation in general, not parents. Creation in general, to say that that the kechavim mazoles are a shutuf, even as a parent, is a shutuf, legitimately because of bechira. But then without bechira, also not. That's all just to bring out even a small shutfus, not just an equal shutfus, but even a very small partnership. Remember the Maamar is also beautiful to remember. What's the pshat? What does the Gemara say in the words Ein Tzur Kelo Kino? There's no literal meaning. It's a pasuk in Shmuel. There's no rock like our God. What does the Gemara say? 41 in Barachas. How are 41? Maybe a 42 or 43. Ein Tzayir Kelo Kino. There's no artist or one who forms like our God. Shetzar Tzura B'Seich Tzura. He makes a form within a form. That's referring to the fetus in the child. The mother is a form that he created, and he creates a form within the form. All to say, this, in the words of the Maamar, this itself is wondrous. So they're not responsible even for the formation of the child. So it's a very, very negligible role. Even that is, when it comes to creation, we have to negate. They are small shutfim because they have bechira, but that's because they have bechira in the creation of a child. But creation is even less than that. Are we clear on this? Because creation, I have no choice at all. Not like a parent, so there's some moral issue here. And what's the analogy? The analogy is kegarzim be'adachaytzev, like the axe in the face of the wood chopper. When the wood chopper brings the wood to your door, you're going to say thank you to the wood chopper, to the axe also. Thank you to the wood chopper, and thank you to the axe. No. It's merely an instrument, and it's not bechira at all. So then, which will continue tomorrow, that's the last part of the Maamar, the Zohar. Now to see the ani, the yichud v'avay elikim, now in our avodah at present. Okay, it's starting to come together a little bit. No substitute for personal chazara. Okay.